How's it going, y'all? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you a guitar player's everyday carry. These are 10 things that I take to every show. Here we go. So the first thing on my list might not seem directly guitar related, but it's one of the most important things on the list. Between loading in and setting up your gear and playing your set, it can take a lot out of you without you even noticing. Dehydration and fatigue can sneak up on you, especially if you're playing a 2 or 3 hour set, which is not uncommon for a club gig. And you might be surprised how thirsty you'll get during the show. So I highly recommend taking a water bottle, especially an insulated one like this that will keep ice. Most venues are pretty good about providing free water for the band, so I usually just take that water and keep filling up my bottle throughout the night. A bottle like this will keep you hydrated and cool, plus it's a good place for a sticker collection. The next item on the list is guitar related, and it's extra picks. If you're watching this and you're a guitar player, then you know how easy it is to lose picks. I definitely recommend getting yourself a little pick tin like this. This came with a pedal that I bought from Walrus Audio once upon a time, but you can also use an Altoids tin, and you can mount these directly to your pedal board, so if you lose a pick during the show, you can easily reach down and get a new one. Now, just a quick word about the picks that I use specifically. If you've been watching the channel, you might have noticed that I use these strange metal-looking thumb picks. Well, these are actually custom thumb picks that I make myself. They're a cross between a traditional thumb pick like this and just your standard everyday flat pick like this. And I use these custom ones because I want to be able to switch between both styles of picking seamlessly. When I'm doing the Brent Mason chicken pick and stuff, I like to use a thumb pick. But when I'm playing rock and roll or taking Eric Johnson style leads, I want to be able to grip the edge of the pick and use it just like a normal flat pick. So I've been developing these custom thumb picks where it uses a piece of nickel that forms to your thumb, kind of like a banjo pick. And then you can attach any kind of pick that you want to them. In this case, I'm using a Dunlop Jazz 3. And if you're interested in this, by the way, I could probably make a whole video just about these thumb picks and my right hand technique. So if that sounds like something that'd be interesting to you, let me know in the comments. But yeah, the design inspiration initially came from these Fred Kelly Bumblebee thumb picks, which you can get on Amazon. It's the same idea with these, it's just these are made of plastic and you can't choose the specific pick that gets attached, so that's why I make custom ones. But when it comes to the pick tin that I take with me to every show, it's full of those Fred Kelly picks. So in a pinch I can just grab one of those if I need to. I put a link to these in my description if you want to try out this style of thumb pick. Alright, so the next item on the list is a printed set list. Once the set list is finalized, the first thing I do when I'm prepping for a show is print it out on a piece of paper like this. There's one particular artist that I do a lot of gigging with, and his entire show is on a click track, and there's cues and transitions between certain songs. So it's important both during show prep and during the show itself for me to know where I am in the set, what's coming next, and what happens in the transition to the next song. There's certain songs in the set, for example, where it's me coming in with guitar right at the top of the song, so I need to know and be ready for that. And a printed set list like this isn't just good for knowing where you are, but it's also a great place for notes. If there's tricky transitions or something that I need to be paying attention to, I'll make a note of that on my set list. Sometimes it's even gear-related notes, like if there's a certain preset that I need to switch to on my delay pedal for the next song, I'll make note of that on my set list. And believe me, if you're playing a 2 or 3 hour set, you can't keep it all up here. Do yourself a favor and offload the mental weight onto a printed set list. Next up is a roll of gaff tape. I take a roll like this to every show and I end up finding a use for it almost every single time without fail. Every stage and every venue is a little bit different and you won't always know what you're walking into, especially from a cable management standpoint. So having a roll of gaff tape just to help hold everything down, like your cabling and your printed set list, is really helpful. You can get a roll like this on Amazon for pretty cheap, and again, there's a link in the description. This next item is somewhat related to the last in that it's all about cable management and tidiness on stage. This is one of the best gear purchases that I've made in years, and it's a cable loom from Rattlesnake Cables. It's essentially 3 guitar cables in one snake. And what it does is it allows me to run through an effects loop with minimal headache. I'm able to run every cable that I need from my pedal board to my amp all in one. The loom includes a line for my amp input, the effects send, and the effects return. If you've been watching the channel, you might have noticed that I like Voxy AC30 style amps. My main amp is a Dr. Z Z-Rec Jr., and I like to run that amp with a little bit of gain on it. But I don't like the sound of wet effects like reverb and delay going into the front of an amp that's breaking up. Some people like that sound, but I prefer to keep my wet effects clean. I use a Fryette power station with my Z-Rec, and that allows me to absolutely crank the amp without blowing everyone's eardrums out, but it also has an excellent effects loop, so I use that to run my wet effects in parallel with the amp. This cable loom makes that setup so much easier. I can have my whole rig set up on stage in about 5 minutes, and there's no spaghetti mess of guitar cables for anybody to trip over. Next is something I think every guitar player should carry with them, and it's a capo. As a guitar player, it's your job to serve the song, and that means supporting your vocalist. You might show up to a show having learned a song in one key, but on the day of the show, your vocalist may need to take the key up or down depending on how their voice feels. It's good to be able to adapt to that quickly by just throwing on a capo. Most of the time it means you don't have to change anything about the part that you learned, and the capo makes it seamless to change keys. It's not something that happens very often, but when it does, I like to have a capo on hand. I really like the classic shub style capo because I like that you can control how much pressure is applied by using the screw on the back. Plus they're pretty small and they fit in your pocket pretty comfortably. I keep mine in my front pocket when I'm playing just in case I need to get to it quickly. You can find these at most music stores, but it's also in the description. The next thing I take to every gig are my in-ear monitors. It's pretty common these days for bands to have their own IEM system that they keep on stage, and every member of the band gets their own mix that usually you control with an app on your phone. You can make your own mix and decide exactly what you want to hear, and that frees up the sound guy to just be able to focus on front of house. And that's all possible because of these right here. These are actually a pretty affordable pair of IEMs from a company called KZ. These are the AS16s. In-ears are a whole rabbit hole that you can go down. They make super nice in-ears that are hundreds and hundreds of dollars. You can even buy in-ears that are custom molded to the shape of your ear. But I've had a lot of luck with these KZs. They're about 80 bucks and they sound phenomenal for the price. There are so many factors that affect a good in-ear monitor mix, so I just try not to overthink it and I go for ones that have a decent enough low-end response. I've played hundreds of times with these and I'm very, very happy with them. I keep them in this Pelican case and you can find both in my description. Moving on from in-ears, now we're getting into things that I consider disaster mitigation tools. This is kind of a two-in-one, but it's extra strings and a guitar setup kit. Unless you're part of a nationally touring act, you're probably not going to have a guitar tech, and that means you have to be your own tech. I think it's good for guitar players to be at least familiar with the basics of guitar teching. I have this kit that I carry with me which has some tools for changing strings and setting neck relief. I'm someone who likes to check my neck relief a lot. When you're moving guitars around a lot, like from outside in the cold to inside of a hot club, or even playing an outdoor show, the neck can move a lot more than you might think. There's nothing worse than rehearsing in a controlled environment and then showing up on the day of the show and all of a sudden your guitar feels completely different and isn't playing right and something is just off. It can throw off your focus and be a huge distraction. So I like to check the neck relief on my guitars when I get to a venue. And also, of course, strings break. It happens. So in case I need to change strings quickly, I have all the tools that I need right here. I use D'Addario 10s on all of my tellies and I always bring an extra set of these with me. The next item is something I think all guitar players should own, and it's an EQ pedal. You never know what kind of room you're going to be walking into at a new venue, and sometimes no matter how dialed in your rig is, there can be pesky frequencies that need fine-tuning. The Boss GE7 is a classic choice for this. Some people like to mod these and other people just leave them alone, but either way, this is a great utility tool to have. It can act as a boost where you can goose the front end of your amp just by using this level slider here, or it can function like a tube screamer where you dump the lows and the highs and get this creamy mid-focus sound. Or if your guitar isn't cutting in the room like you want it to be, you can boost some high mids. This thing is a classic for a reason, and I keep one in my gig bag for every show just in case. And last but not least is a DI box. Again, mostly for disaster mitigation purposes. If my amp happens to go down in a show, then I can switch over to the CORTEX 1 that's on my pedal board. If you watched my Pedalboard walkthrough already, then you know that the capture that I use on my CORTEX is just a Z-Rec capture, and it is very, very true to the real amp. So in a worst case scenario where my amp fails on stage, I can switch over to a near identical capture pretty seamlessly. But to get the signal from the CORTEX up to proper line level for front of house, you need something like this. This is the Walrus Audio Stereo Canvas DI, and it's perfect for using amp sims on your pedal board. And it also just functions like a regular DI, so if something else happens elsewhere on stage, like the singer's acoustic guitar DI fails, I've got this one ready and waiting. Well, that's it for this Guitar Player's EDC video. Those were 10 things that I take to every show. Guitar players, let me know what you take to your gigs. I want to hear about it. And like I mentioned before, every item in this video is linked in my description, so if you decide to pick up anything that you've seen here today, using those links helps out the channel a lot. If you like this content and you're not subscribed, you know what to do. I'd love to have you come join me here. And until next time, keep on picking.